A young flight attendant named Montana Moore lives alone in an apartment building and is full of life. She loves her job that allows her to travel and visit exotic places, and has a caring, close group of friends, colleagues, Gail and Sam, and a childhood friend and neighbor, William Wright. She is proud of her accomplishments, loves her life, and is generally content with it, except for the persistent pressure from her mother, Catherine, who has been married 5 times, to get married and start a family. This pressure starts to get to Montana, and despite having her own standards for men, she is forced to remind herself that she doesn't want to end up alone and be open-minded. Luckily, Montana meets a charming guy named Graham Jackson on a flight. The two hit it off and start dating. One night, when Montana returns home from work, she runs into William, who gives her Graham's gift that was delivered to his house by mistake. Then, William's girlfriend, Taylor, joins the duo, and the trio chit-chats for a bit. Later, Montana opens her gift and is excited to read Graham's invitation to his hometown, Chicago, for Thanksgiving. The next morning, still beaming with excitement, Montana goes to work and gives the news to Gail and Sam, who share her excitement. The group discusses the matter, and, considering the significance of Thanksgiving, decides that Graham must be planning to propose to Montana, and works on how she should react, but decides to wait until after the proposal to inform Catherine of the good news. Then, Sam gives Montana his grandmother's lucky charm to help her find her true love. In Chicago, Graham takes Montana on his yacht and shows her a good time. The couple spends a romantic day together and prepares to head to Graham's house. However, at the last minute, Graham informs Montana that an urgent business matter has come up and that he has to fly to New York to take care of it. He then apologizes, books her a suite in a fancy hotel, and drives her there after declining her offer to go to New York with him. Disappointed, Montana schedules to see Graham when he returns from the trip and goes to her suite. There, she receives a call from Gail, who, after hearing what happened, shares her suspicion that Graham may be lying. Gail then advises Montana to secretly go to Graham's house and verify his story for herself. Desperate to find out the truth, Montana goes along with this insane plan, heads to Graham's house, and sneaks around to the backyard. There, Montana trips over the garbage and makes a loud ruckus, which alerts Graham to come out of the house to figure out the cause. As advised by Gail, Montana jumps into the garbage and hides. Once Graham returns inside, Montana slowly sneaks to the windows and watches Graham as he reads his paperwork, is relieved, and even starts daydreaming about her future life with him. However, moments later, as Montana watches in utter heartbreak, a pregnant woman enters the house and lovingly embraces Graham, who happily returns her affections. Montana nurses her broken heart and returns home depressed. She spends the day at home singing along to the same sad love song playing over and over again. William overhears this from his apartment, goes over, and keeps her company while cooking her some food and entertaining her. A few days later, Montana's younger sister, Cherie, and Catherine surprise Montana at her place to excitedly inform her about Cherie's engagement and ask her to be her maid of honor. Even though she is happy for her sister, Montana tries to advise the college freshman, Cherie, that she is too young for marriage, but it falls on deaf ears. Later, Montana shares the engagement news with Gail and Sam, and confides that if she's single at the wedding, she will be the laughingstock of her family. Knowing that the wedding is only a month away, the group tries to come up with different solutions, but fails. Finally, Sam devises a plan to go through a list of Montana's old boyfriends and make sure she subtly runs into them in the following weeks. For this plan, he employs his friends who work as ticket officer and security officer at the airport and warns them to tell him whenever anyone from the list purchases a flight so that he can assign Montana to that flight. At first, Montana rebukes this idea, but is forced to give it a try as Catherine's pressure to find someone mounts. The plan works, and Montana is put on board a flight with one of her exes, now a famous singer, Damon Diesel. Montana gets dressed to impress, and as she rushes to the airport, she runs into William, who gives her a ride. During the drive, William shares how happily married his parents were, and that the secret is in staying married and not in getting married. Montana takes this to heart, thanks her best friend, and rushes to catch her flight. On the flight, Montana runs into Damon, who is happy to see her. They catch up on their lives and decide to have dinner when they land. At the fancy restaurant, Montana is impressed to see that everyone knows Damon, and he is living a comfortable life. Then, he introduces her to a woman named Janine before they leave and head to his place. There, Montana is impressed to see his luxurious apartment and congratulates him on his achievements. Then, as the duo spends some quality time, Janine arrives and starts banging on the locked door while threatening Damon, which forces Damon to confess that all the fancy things in his life belong to his girlfriend, Janine. To make matters worse, Damon asks Montana to hide and escape through the fire escape, which infuriates Montana. On the fire escape, as Montana regretfully reflects on this experience, Gail informs her that her ex, Langston, will be traveling the next morning. The next morning, Montana runs into Langston on his flight and is relieved to see that he's happy to see her. As the two catch up on their way, Langston shares that he is running for Congress and asks her to join him for dinner to impress a potential campaign donor, Mr. Donaldson. After she agrees, Langston takes Montana to his impressive mansion and gets her an appropriate outfit. At dinner, Langston privately asks her to sit back and look pretty so that the old-fashioned Mr. Donaldson will be impressed. As the dinner goes on, Mr. Donaldson gives inappropriate comments, and as the tension rises, Montana tells a joke to break the ice. Mr. Donaldson is impressed by Montana's wit and doubles his donations. However, later that night, despite gaining him more money for his campaign, Langston tells Montana that if she wants to be by his side, she has to know her place and keep quiet. Montana is frustrated at Langston's ignorance, breaks up with him, and storms out. Then, having nowhere else to go, Montana calls William in the middle of the night and asks him to drive for more than an hour to come get her. William does as Montana asks without hesitation. As William drives her home, Montana falls asleep and dreams about William and about how good they can potentially be for one another. The next day, as Catherine nags her about her single status, Montana cracks under the pressure and tells her mother that she has a partner whom she will bring to the wedding. This news delights Catherine to no end. Later, Montana and William go to the boutique, and as Montana tries on her bridesmaid dress, the duo nostalgically discuss their childhood and how William had playfully proposed to Montana as a young kid. These stories end up making the duo wonder what it would have been like to be together. Later, William goes to speak with Taylor, who's out of town visiting her sick grandmother, while Montana rushes to the airport to meet the next ex on the list. Over the next few days, Montana goes on a series of flights and meets with a lot of her exes in hopes of rekindling a romance in time for Cherie's wedding, but fails terribly. Then one day, while at her job, Montana runs into Taylor, who boards the plane with her lover and becomes furious on behalf of William. Knowing William doesn't deserve this, Montana attempts to confront Taylor, who calmly claims that her relationship with William is over, but asks her to keep it a secret nonetheless. The month flies by, and when there are only 4 days left to the wedding, Montana gives up on her search. However, this is interrupted by a voicemail from her mother, announcing that she has told all the family that Montana is coming with her partner and warning her not to let her down. Then, later that night, she goes to the restaurant for dinner and is surprised to meet an old acquaintance named Quentin, who's always had his eyes on her. Then, Quentin reveals that he owns the hotel and provides her with luxurious service. After dinner, the two spend the whole night talking and getting to know each other and hit it off. In the morning, Quentin shares his plan to take a year off to travel and asks Montana to join him, after specifying that even though he can't give her marriage and a family, he can provide her with a passionate, adventurous life. Montana invites Quentin to Cherie's rehearsal dinner, citing that they can discuss the matter further there. Elsewhere, William breaks up with Taylor and packs up all of her stuff from his apartment, looks back on his relationship with Montana, and decides something must change. Then, as Montana prepares for the rehearsal dinner, William arrives to give her an early Christmas gift, and the two discuss Montana's predicament. However, as the conversation progresses, William insists that Montana should stay true to herself, instead of trying to accommodate the men who don't deserve her for fear of being alone. And the two have a fight, which leads William to storm out. At the rehearsal dinner, after congratulating the bride and groom, Catherine introduces Montana so that she can make her big announcement and reveal her boyfriend. However, not having anyone to introduce, Montana tries to stall and distract the guests. Then, to everyone's surprise, Langston arrives with a bouquet in hand, and, after congratulating Cherie, makes a speech to Montana about her values to his campaign, then proposes to her right there on the spot. William sees this, and he leaves the party, feeling disappointed. unexpectedly, Catherine breaks the awkward silence and accepts the proposal on behalf of Montana, who profusely refuses it. Then, Montana finally gets the courage to make a speech, and after describing how tough it was trying to live up to everyone's expectations, she declares that she is happily single and will not rush into any decision for the sake of others. Then, Montana congratulates her sister from the bottom of her heart and advises her that she should get married only for love and not to conform to expectations. Cherie and her fiancé take this to heart, discuss their predicament, and happily agree to call off the wedding and postpone it to after their graduation, agreeing to get to know each other better for the time being. Later that night, as Montana leaves the party with Gail and Sam, Catherine pulls her aside to tell her how proud she is of her for standing up for herself and doing what's right for her. She then details that despite marrying 5 men, the love of her life remains Mr. Moore, and that all she wants for her daughters is to experience such romance and partnership. Montana and Catherine hash it out and mend their relationship. Later that night, as Montana and her friends chat in her apartment, Quentin arrives apologizing for missing the rehearsal dinner and prepares to take Montana away, but is understanding when she respectfully declines his offer, citing her need for true love, marriage, and family. Then, as the night progresses, the group casually opens William's gift and is surprised to see that it's a plane ticket to Paris. Montana remembers that she told William about her dreams of visiting Paris and is touched. When the group realizes that the flight is only in a couple of hours, they rush to get Montana to the airport, while Sam calls his friends to delay William. After many mishaps, Montana manages to make it to the airport in time and catches up to William, who is relieved to see her there and to hear that she refused Langston's proposal. William details that he has broken up with Taylor and is a single man. Then, after explaining how he feels about her, Mr. Wright gets on one knee and proposes to Montana, who gleefully accepts.
And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.